sure this microphone is on. I just recorded a whole podcast and forgot that the microphone was off. Well, welcome to the very first podcast, or technically the second, of Hands-On Outdoors. Let me try that again. Welcome to the very first episode of the Hands-On Outdoors podcast. My name is Cordy, and if you're listening, thanks for being here. This is actually my first podcast. I've never done one before, so if I sound a little awkward at times, or if I'm saying that's probably because, well, I am a little awkward, and I say a lot. But everybody starts somewhere, and I figured the best way to learn how to do this is to just sit down, hit record, grab the microphone, and go for it. So here we are. I wanted this first episode to be simple, and I don't want there to be any big topic. There's no special guest, no strategy, no report, nothing. It's just a chance to introduce myself and let you guys kind of, figure out who I am and who Hands-On Outdoors is. I'll talk a little bit about where I hope this goes, and I'll talk about, who I am a little bit. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a husband, I'm a father, business owner, and here we go, saying it again. I'm somebody who spends most of his life, outside, boots on the ground, or I got sawdust in my pockets. Who knows? I am a carpenter by trade, and I've worked construction and woodworking, mechanics, pretty much everything that you can do with your hands. I've done, whether it be tile or cabinetry, framing, roofing, mechanics, all that sort of things. I've done all of that. Now, I have been in the construction field for about 20 years now doing home remodeling and repairs. And over that time, I've always enjoyed building things and fixing things, learning how things work. But ultimately, what always brings me back is being outside. And if I'm working outside, then, that's great, but it doesn't hit the same, Sometimes just being outside isn't simply enough as just walking out your back door. And sometimes it is. But what I'm talking about is fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, wildlife photography in general, kayaking, all those sorts of things. I'm not talking like golf or, sports of any kind. I'm not the sports type of guy. I love to go exploring places I've never been. Any excuse to go somewhere new, especially outside, I'm in. Let's go do it. And that's really where Hands-On Outdoors came from, and it's a place where I can kind of share all those experiences with you. And it's not going to be just hunting. It's not going to be just fishing. It won't be just photography. It'll be all of it. It'll be, if I'm building a cart for my kayak, like I'm going to show you guys how to build that cart. I'm going to teach you guys, give you the plans, and all of that sort of stuff. And that's an example of just some of the things that I'll probably be doing in the future on this channel. And, I will get better at looking at the camera in the podcast. I know that's an issue for a lot of people. I'm still used to the podcast thing, so I do have some notes down here I'm looking at just to kind of keep me on topic, because if not, I will ramble for days. Now, once I get better at learning to read and learning to look at the camera at the same time, this podcast won't be so bad. I don't know that it is bad. Maybe it is. But, if we're getting outside and we're walking a trail we've never walked, we're seeing a sunrise in a place we've never seen a sunrise before, we're learning a new skill, getting your kids outside, getting them off, these screens. I got screens here in front of me, getting the kids off those things, getting them outside, getting them in the dirt. That's what life's all about. Life's about getting outside and getting dirty. And that's what I plan to bring to you guys. I'm not a professional fisherman. I'm not a professional hunter. I'm not a wildlife biologist. I have no professional degrees of any kind. I'm just a dude who enjoys being outside, enjoys learning new things, and wants to bring it to you guys. Some days I'm going to get it right. Some days I'm going to get it wrong. Some days I'll probably learn the lesson the hard way. I'm pretty good at that one. But I think there's a lot of value in sharing that with you guys. You don't always have to get it done and get it right the first time. Sometimes what I'm going to be teaching you guys, like, I'm a pretty budget conscious guy. I don't have to have the newest of the new, the best of the best. A lot of the things that I do, I build myself, I work on myself. I will go extra sometimes on building things myself, things that I could have just bought, but I get more joy out of building them than buying them sometimes. And honestly, like, a little bit of everything on this podcast we'll talk about, will be those things, but mostly it's just going to be outdoor adventure. We'll probably talk about family or life or whatever else happens to come up along the way. My goal is to make this feel less like a presentation, more like a conversation. And like, if you're sitting around a campfire, you're riding down the road, or just hanging out in the garage with a friend cutting up a deer, a lot of us do that, and we don't see other people out there. We don't hear about other people out there doing that. The days of going and checking your deer in at the local check-in and getting to talk to everybody, that camaraderie that we used to have as hunters, that's gone with all the online tagging and everything. Like, the only camaraderie we get anymore is social media. And I feel like there's a lot missing in the outdoor world. And this is my attempt to bring some of that back. We need a guy in a chair just talking, just to talk about what we're doing, just the outdoors. And this is my attempt. Maybe I'm not that guy. Maybe this channel inspires that guy. I'm not sure who it could be. I would love it if it was me, but maybe it's not, and that's no big deal. But if you've made it this far in the podcast, you obviously are liking what you're hearing. And, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys listening. Again, this channel is super new. The podcast is new. I'm honestly excited to see where it goes. I'm excited for the future. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the first episode, technically the second, because I don't know how to use these microphones yet. And I hope you'll stick around for the journey. This is Hands On Outdoors. I'm Cordy Barnes. Thanks for listening.
Dirt roads, fence roads, cold creeks where the wind blows. Sunrise, blue skies, every bend's a new surprise. Tall grass, worn paths, good days never seem to last. Cast lines, track signs, leave the busy world behind. Hands on outdoors. Back roads, bank turns, campfire embers still burn. Deer trails, cattails, stories written without a word.